I think let's start. So, colleagues, thank you so much for making it to today's Tech Tuesday. Uh, this is something that we normally do often. We bring in wonderful speakers. Dr. Bramfield, who organizes Tech Tuesday, was not able to make it because she's struggling. But we are so happy and delighted to have one of our colleagues here at the university be our speaker today. And our speaker is Mr. John Starne, who works in the Center for Instructional Innovation and Technology Services that is located here in the library. Mr. Starne is an instructional designer, and he is a guru at his work. He's one of those people I respect, and I respect highly. And today's presentation is going to be on artificial intelligence, and he's going to specifically focus on copyright issues, academic integrity, instructional enhancement, and use of AI tools in the workplace. So, Mr. Starne, you are welcome, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Alaka. So before we begin, we are on your screen, hopefully everyone is seeing the mural whiteboard. This is a semi-free tool. What I'm showing you today is actually part of the paid tool, but I'm introducing it because I do really like this tool, and the free tool is great if you only want to present to people. The paid tool is what you're going to be required to use if you want people to also be able to interact. All I'm going to do in today's presentation is show you features of the free elements of the tool. If you want to get into this tool, you can look in the Zoom chat, and the link for this tool is here. There are many links built into this whiteboard that you may be interested in looking at down the line after we finish this presentation. And when Dr. Alaka sends me the video link for the presentation itself, I'll embed it in the whiteboard so you can get it here as well. I will be expanding what is in this whiteboard as time moves forward with additional tools and resources. So you may want to come in the future and take a look at it to see what else has been provided for you. AI is a really broad topic, and it's much, much older than you probably realize. We have been talking about it in earnest since the announcement of ChatGPT, which was only about 10 months ago, but ChatGPT is actually much older than that. I'm going to zoom in, and you can see that they were on the third version of ChatGPT at the end of 2020. We, of course, got introduced to this at the end of 2022, but it was already out there. And 3.5 was out almost 6 months later. And of course, now we're on version 4 of ChatGPT. But it's not the only player in this field of large language models AI. As you can see by this image, it's showing you the progression of several different models. The three biggest players in the game are OpenAI, Google Bard. Llama is a Meta product. It is not widely dispersed yet, but it's coming, and it is already embedded in Instagram and Facebook. And then there are others that are emerging now. Now, before we jump into some of the other topics, I want to give you the breadth of what we mean when we say AI tools, because there are a lot of them. And the large language models are the ones that you have heard the most about, more than likely. And the three big players in the field that are freely available right now are ChatGPT, Bard, and Claude. If you have not heard about Claude, they are definitely way behind the other two, but they do offer some interesting features that are not offered by ChatGPT and Bard. If you are using ChatGPT, the corpus of information that it is drawing from ended in September of 2021. So it is not drawing new information in ChatGPT. There are extensions that you can plug into the paid version of ChatGPT that will allow you to access more recent data, but the free version does not. Google Bard is accessing the internet in live time. So it has a lot more recent information and functionality than what you will see in the unpaid version of ChatGPT. It, however, does not have all of the functionality that you see in ChatGPT, but it does have some things that ChatGPT doesn't have. Claude is a much smaller footprint, but it is another major player in the field. And these links beneath each of these will take you out to the engines. And I'll give you a little bit of a demonstration of each of them later in the presentation. Now, one of the things that is not getting spoken about much at all, and this is going to be very important when we talk about academic integrity, are the small language models. Large language models require insane hardware requirements. Only something that an enterprise business or maybe an R1 university could possibly afford. When you are putting a prompt into Bard, ChatGPT, or Claude, or Meta, or any of the others, it is going out to a very, very expensive server farm that has that very top level equipment in it, and it is incredibly energy intensive. In fact, one of the challenges that they are currently facing is how they're going to sustain the exhaustive use of these tools moving forward as the entire world starts to adopt them, because it is very, very energy intensive right now, and they're working on ways of simplifying that. One of the ways that they're going to simplify that is to work with more small language models. Small language models are domain specific. They do not have the breadth of scope that you will see in a large language model. They may only work in one subject or one area, and they are generally trained off of those large language models. The main advantage of them is that they do not require the massive hardware tools that the LLMs do. The reason that this is important is that these small language models are already flexible enough that our advanced students, probably our graduate students in computer science, could develop their own and have access to hardware that could develop their own small language models. Now, as of right now, this is not going to run on a phone or a tablet. It's going to need a pretty souped up laptop or desktop to run on a small language model, but they're going to get better. The reason that I'm pointing this out, even though they are not in the mainstream, is from both an academic integrity and copyright point of view. These small language models are going to differentiate significantly from their large language models. They are going to introduce variables that are going to be difficult, if not impossible, for companies like Turnitin to train their systems on to detect AI, because they will be distinct and they will follow unique algorithms that are not readily available to the public, that can be easily mimicked and manipulated. The other thing is we will probably start seeing some more small language models come up in very specialized areas that the large language models just don't have a lot of current information on, or that they need to be pruned and curated to where they have the correct information in them. If you have already played with any of the LLMs, you know that they generate an awful lot of garbage and they generate an awful lot of good things, but only an expert at this point would be able to tell the difference between the two of them. Another area that is very important, that is really within the LLM scope, but I put it separately because this is a functional talk, it's not meant for experts in machine learning, are the code generators. So if you write code, or if you teach students that write code, this is something that you need to know about. GitHub, which is owned by Microsoft, has its own Copilot product that writes code for you. The large language models will all write code for you, and I mean programming code. And if you are someone that needs to write basic code like an Excel macro or some VBA, these can be great tools, but there are also things that if you are in the teaching area, you want to be aware of that the students have access to. Another great area of tools are speech-to-text tools. As an instructional designer, we have had times where we have needed multiple voices in order to create videos. When you're trying to create your video with just your voice, that's fine. But if you need multiple voices, I'm not that talented. Some of you may be more talented than I am. But there are some great tools out there that will allow you to generate different voices that are fairly inexpensive. As of right now, I don't know of any free ones. And unfortunately, we're no longer sponsoring any of these at a university level. Another tool that is more focused on accessibility issues are text-to-speech tools. We do license a free one. Well, it's not free, but the university pays for it. And that is the MS Office or the Microsoft. Anytime I say MS, I mean Microsoft Immersive Reader. And this is embedded in every Microsoft product as well as Canvas. So you may not be aware of the Immersive Reader, but it is a great tool. I'm going to go into an assignment, and anywhere in Canvas that is an assignment or a page, you are going to see the Immersive Reader button up here at the top. And this isn't a great example because this is a loose assignment, but you click the Immersive Reader, and hopefully the sound comes through.
Source. Author and credentials. Argument. Verbatim evidence.
And you can see that it not only has increased the font size for someone who may be challenged in that area, but it's also reading it out loud to you. And you have multiple settings. You can go to a female or a male setting. You can speed up how quickly it talks to you. You have the ability to change your font preferences. This could be especially helpful if you have a student or you're working with someone who has dyslexia. Some fonts are better than others. Individuals who have contrast issues, you can see that I'm moving into different areas. On this, I can increase the spacing or decrease the spacing. We have some options. This is great for students that English is not their first language or they are learning English patterns. You can look at different parts of speech throughout. This is not a great example because it's so short, but you can see the colors. And then you also have options of changing the lines. This will work in anything that's embedded in Canvas, and it works almost identically if you are in any Office product that we have. So this is a great tool that is all AI driven in order to help people who have challenges, or I use it sometimes just to read stuff back to me when I'm not completely sure if I've made a grammatical error. In fact, I use it all the time, to be perfectly honest with you. Another great tool that you can use is Natural Reader. This is a free Chrome plugin. I'm going to go over here where I have a little bit more text. I'm going to highlight the text, and you can see up here in my browser, I already installed it, and I click on Natural Reader. Sometimes it's a little sticky.
2022, after soliciting information from the applicant about the process of the work's creation, the office determined that copyright protected both the human-authored text and human selection and arrangement of the text and images, but not the AI-generated images themselves.
So this can be used on any web page, and we are in a web page with Mural. The Immersive Reader cannot read an external web page, so that's why both tools come in handy. Natural Reader is free. You can't get all of the voices that it offers for free. But if you're interested in this, you just go to Natural Reader in Chrome to extend it. And as you can see, I can click on this image, and I have access to some of these because I've been a member for this a long time, and I've got Legacy. But the free version is only going to let you have a few voices. But I'm going to grab just another voice real quick so that you can hear the difference.
2022, after soliciting information from the applicant about the process of the works.
You can also speed it up if you want.
2022, after soliciting information from the applicant about the process of the work's creation,
Or
the office determined that copyright. The office determined that.
Hopefully you're not needing that speed. But another great free tool that you can very easily, it does not work in Safari, but it will work in Chrome. I believe it does work in Firefox as well. So let's go back to just going over the AI tools. The last category are image generators. These are links to all of these image generators. This, I will admit, is not an area that I spend a lot of time in. If you are interested in this, one of the other people in my department, Matt Herrera, has spent a fair amount of time, especially in Adobe Firefly, that will allow you to generate images that you may want to use for your presentations or other tools. And again, you're welcome to look at these on your own time later. Just trying to give you a high-level overview of what can be used in the AI world. So let's now go back into the copyright issues. As of right now, there is not a lot of restriction from the copyright point of view when it comes to AI, but the court cases are mounting. The EU is ahead of us in this area. They are already discussing it in depth. But as far as US law is concerned, the official line now is if it was generated by an AI, it is effectively in the public domain at the point of its creation. Now, the person who creates it can copyright it if they make changes or modifications to it. My recommendation is if you create anything with AI and you want it to stay in the public domain, you make your modifications and you immediately slap a Creative Commons license on it so that someone else cannot go and grab it and remove it from a free resource. So if your intention is to use AI tools to make open educational resources, which are free, to prevent those from becoming paid-only resources, you want to put them in the Creative Commons. And most of the people on this group are librarians, so I assume you know what that is. If you need more information about how to do that, feel free to reach out to me or any of the librarians later. They will be more than capable of explaining how you do it. It is a free process, and it's a very easy item to do. The biggest lawsuit that I think we might want to keep an eye on, and there is a link to the lawsuit, was filed September 2023. This is, I believe, 17 major authors have filed a lawsuit against OpenAI because their works have probably been put in to the large language learning models to train them. And they're claiming that they're not getting royalties. This is inappropriate. This is going to be a very interesting court case. And the reason this is going to be interesting is that they are going to be forced to prove that there is a direct harm to these authors from what the OpenAI has generated. And the reason that is going to be harder than you think is that there is something called emergent properties of AI. And there are a couple of technical papers out there. I did not link it because when I tried to read it, I was like, okay, I need a degree in computer science to even understand what is in this paper. But basically what happens is there's a lot going into these large language models. They write the initial algorithms, and what it spits out, they don't know exactly how it came up with what it produced. And this is called emergent properties. This is actually something that we see in humans. We produce things all the time that we are not trained exactly on how to produce them. The AI models are doing the same thing. So they know what they put in, they know what they get out, but there's an area between the input and the output where they are not sure how the AIs are coming up with it. Because of this, it's going to be really hard to prove what data was used to create things, which is another component of the AIs. They also are now working like human memory in that they're associative. What that means is that the AI models are a web of information, and they take pieces of different components and put them together, just like we do as humans. When we problem solve, we take pieces of our experiences, pieces of things we've read, and we put them together. And we put them together wrong. Guess what? The AIs are doing the same thing. But that associative nature of the AIs, of the LLMs, also makes it just about impossible to prune specific data out of the LLM. Because once you put it in, it creates matrices in order to draw information from. And as of right now, the official word from OpenAI and Google is that they don't know every place that each piece of information exists in. Then we're also starting to talk about how much is fair use? Because a few sentences is going to be considered fair use. That's all an AI needs in order to develop a mimicry model. They can mimic a style with just a paragraph. We're in the domain of fair use, so legally, what happens? If we follow traditional copyright law, they're not going to strike it down, and that is the official position of the Copyright Office. However, the Copyright Office, as of the middle of this year, has public inquiries going on about what we should do with AI. I'm not going to go into the details of that because we have a lot to cover in the overall presentation, but I have provided a link to that inquiry so that you can go and read it on your own. From that inquiry, I thought it was a particularly interesting reaction. This is dealing with AI-generated images, but if you read the case, it's also talking about language as well. It protects human-authored and human selection arrangements. So if you get something from AI, if you create a prompt and the AI generates the prompt and you make changes to that, it is a copyrightable item. But what the AI generates natively, before you make any changes to it, before you put multiple things together, is not copyrightable. This is the official position of the Copyright Office as of today in the United States. As far as I know, the European Union is currently in the discovery and development phase, but because we're in a world economy, it's going to be really interesting what happens if the EU decides to put limitations on what we're allowed to do with copyright, because of the nature of the web. So that's a very high overview of the copyright dynamics, and I've given you the resources you can look at later, and the strategies that you need. So let's go to the academic integrity piece. The first thing that I want to let you know is that we cannot beat the machine. The very first thing that I am going to say, and I have been researching this in depth since, well, definitely since February, but I think I was doing it a little bit before that. And every professional organization that I have listened to, when we talk about academic integrity, has said point blank, it is impossible to stop this train. We are not going to be able to detect everything that's AI generated with Turnitin or similar tools. And as soon as a tool has the ability to detect it, it's going to be counteracted with another tool that is going to cheat it. If you are familiar with word mixers, you know that word mixers can change what's going on with AI. Let me give you an example of what that is. I'm going to go into Bard, and Bard is one of the AI tools. It is free. You have the direct link. It is bard.google.com. You only need to have a Google account, which is also free to do this. And you can see that I was using Bard to help me with this presentation. This is kind of segueing into how can you use it. And it told me that there are 17 authors that are alleging copyright infringement. Okay, great. I need to get the legal citation. This doesn't give me enough information. So you can see my next choice was give me the legal citations for these. And it gave me this citation. And it turned out this is the correct citation. Bard sometimes does not give you correct citations. Many times I have caught it giving incorrect citations, but I was able to pull this up and actually find that both this and this are correct citations. The second citation is interesting. This is a citation. This deals with GitHub and code. GitHub has a lot of free source code out there, but people are alleging that the OpenAI is taking their intellectual property. So two very similar lawsuits, but different domains. So I'm going to enter a prompt here, and I am going to ask this prompt to look up something. Give me an analysis on the differences and similarities between the once and future king and the Hobbit. This was a paper that I had when I was in what we call 1301. This is a fairly complex topic. Okay, and you can see how quickly it generated this. As I had said before, this is in the public domain because it was just generated by an AI. I've made no changes to it whatsoever. And it's giving us some information. So this probably might be picked up by an AI detector. But what I do is I grab this text, and then I go to another tool called Quillbot, which is similar to Grammarly. I drop this into Quillbot, and then I ask it to rephrase it. So I want to rephrase this creatively. And you can see almost instantaneously, it has rewritten what is in here. This is effectively a word mixer. Now, these are not radically different, but it went from 582 words to 524 words. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to copy this and put it into Mural so that you, if you want to, you can read it in more detail later. But I also have the ability in this particular one to make it more dynamically different than what we had in the original. I can also specify that it's shorter. And notice if I shorten it, we go down to the bottom, I'm now at 381 words. I also have the ability to expand it. And just like that, we're now at 767 words. So like I just said, I am going to go in and copy this, go over to Mural, put in a sticky note and paste it. And then I am going to go back to Quillbot. This is my original text. Go back to Mural, double click in Mural and paste it. And I'm moving my mouse wheel to enlarge it. So this is generated by ChatGPT.
2022. After soliciting information.
I accidentally told Natural Reader to read. That's what was going on there. And then this is
2022.
expanded
after
by
soliciting information from the applicant.
Sometimes these can be annoying. So you can immediately see that there is going to be it's just going to be very, very, very difficult to keep up with the students. So how do we deal with the academic integrity? Well, this is a Hearts and Minds campaign. We're going to have to get the students to convince the students that the tools are not there to replace them. In fact, if they don't take advantage of their educational opportunities, they are going to be unemployable if they have to generate anything. So these are two modified things that I am telling my students that I have stolen, borrowed from other presentations. One of them that I really heard last week I love is you will not be replaced by AI. Someone who knows how to use AI will replace you. Being able to generate something from AI and throw it in as an academic paper may get you a grade, but in the corporate world, when someone's paying you, they're going to want more. Because why do they need you if they can just type the same prompt, grab it, and throw it into whatever they're doing? The other thing is, let's figure out how we can use the AI tools to do the best thing they do and the best thing that humans do and do synergy. That is the message that we need to send. And I'm going to pause because I know that a large part of our group are librarians. Where do you see your role in this bigger picture? You know, I'm a technologist and an instructor. I'm not a librarian. How do you guys perceive this?
I think as a librarian, definitely students come to us with questions. Where do I get this kind of information? But when they start writing, if they think that they can use ChatGPT or Bab to make their life much easier, chances are very high that they might be encouraged to use it. But if we can collaborate and work together and show students that, yes, this is just a tool that maybe you can use it to, at the beginning, to generate, ideas, but you need to do your own work. Maybe the students might do better.
So is this an opportunity for a librarian faculty cooperative?
Sure. To me, I think it's long overdue. Maybe it's good that AI has come to really cement the working relations between librarians and, instructional designers and other players.
So I see that we also have several faculty on here as well. What are your thoughts for those of you that are faculty with Dr. Olaka's comment? Any other librarians that have anything to add to Dr. Olaka's position? Okay. So let's look at potential.
I think there was a question. There are some questions in chat.
Oh, I do apologize. I did not see that.
Or some responses in chat.
Okay, hallucinations in AI. Okay, let me see if I can generate an example for you. A hallucination in AI is when they create something that isn't real. They create information that is just completely and totally wrong. Let me see if I can generate one. Provide citations in APA format for race issues as it relates to the use of intelligence testing since 2020. Very specific. Okay, so it was smart enough that all of the citations are past 2020. My next question, though, is, are these real? Because I've caught Bard create citations several times that they are not real. So the way that I would do this, and the way that I have been doing this, because my students were told point blank to start using the AI tools, because I'm starting to train them on them. I think it's very important for our students to be able to use these tools because their employers are going to expect them to be able to use these tools. So then my first stop is Google Scholar because it's usually my fastest way of checking. I'm just putting in the title. In my experience, if it's legitimate, what usually happens is I will get exactly that title, and that is the only citation. Now, in some cases, I have found a legitimate citation when I got something like this. But I'm going to hand this over to you, Dr. Olaka, since you're a librarian. How would you look it up? How would you validate this citation? And to make it easier on you, I'll give you the full citation in chat.
Yeah, I would go to the journal itself and look at the volume and issue.
So how would I do that?
Go to, for example, the library website.
Okay, so PVAMU-library.
Yes. And then you can scroll down. Under e-journals, you put that journal where it said it appears.
Okay, so this is educational review. Can I put the full citation in or just the journal
No,
name?
just the title, and then we can go step by step to
So the title of the article or the title of the journal?
the title of the journal.
Okay. Okay. So the journal does exist.
Yeah.
Am I reading that correctly?
Okay.
Educational
review.
Okay. So now what do I do?
Taylor and Francis.
Okay, that's the publisher.
Yeah, just click on it. It will take you to the journal.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay,
and then
so
maybe
I want volume, it looks like 73.5.
73. Yeah, so 73.
So that was 2021.
Yeah.
And I want issue 5. And I want to see the role of intelligence. Is there a faster way for me to look through this? Because I did not see that. Did anyone else see it?
No, there's none there.
Okay. So would you at this, well, okay, we have page numbers. We have 638 to 659. Does it give me page numbers in here? No, it does not. Yes, it does.
It gives page numbers, yeah.
So 638 to 659 would be local level place scholarships or review of literature. This is an example of a hallucination. It has created a fake citation.
What makes it create a fake citation? Why does it do that?
That is in that emergent properties area, I believe. They don't know.
Okay.
What it's doing, this is actually interesting to me because it's completely wrong. Did I go, first of all, let me look. Volume 73 says 2021. But if I scroll down here, and Dr. Alaka, correct me if I'm misunderstanding, I believe that had a 2019 date on it. Yeah.
That's published online. The first time it was published online.
Okay. So this was reprinted in 2021?
So sometimes some journals publish ahead of time. They put it online before it's finalized, and then they will have now the final version.
Gotcha.
Much later, yeah.
So exactly why I did this is an interesting question to me, because this is not even remotely related. Well, maybe it is. Now, this is a trick that I would immediately do. I did a Control F, and I'm searching for the word intelligence. And there is no mention of the word intelligence in this article on this webpage. That's interesting to me. I also use the keyword race. So let's see if the word race is in here. Race is in here 5 times. So it's possible that whatever it did to come up with this information, it grabbed pieces from different areas. So remember, the computer doesn't work the way that we do. What it probably did is it put in those keywords, and it grabbed a piece of these keywords from multiple areas, and it put all of the different components together. And it made it in the correct format for an APA citation. Let's do something else real quick. Do these
Oh,
particular...
actually, Mr. Starne, I think you are searching the wrong journal.
Was I?
Oh, yeah, it was the right journal. Sorry, you are right. You are right.
Okay.
Yes.
So another trick that I would use, because sometimes it could be when you have, 50 to 300 students and they're all turning in papers, this is an exhaustively difficult process. That's one of the reasons I like looking at Google Scholar, because it is a fairly quick search, and I have been pretty successful, but it's not absolutely definitive. So I'm going to put in these two authors. Okay, I've got her. Woodley is not that common of a name, but it is fairly common. Didn't come up immediately. So let me go back to the library. Is this when I would go to EBSCO?
Yeah, you can do it. You can even search advanced search. Yeah, do an advanced search and then you do an author search.
Okay, so let's see if these two authors have written anything together. And again, I am fully aware that this is taking a lot of time, and that, instructors don't always have this type of time to look at every citation, because I know I don't. It wouldn't surprise me if we actually wind up using AI tools in the not too distant future to do this automatically. In fact, if anyone's looking for a idea for something that might be a good selling idea, I just gave it to you. Is that fair and reasonable that it didn't find any? What if I simplify it and I just go Jones and Woodley?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the initials are too specific. Now, Jones is an incredibly common name.
Yeah.
But looking off the top of what came up, none of these have anything to do with intelligence and race.
Maybe you can also search, put one author and then put the title of the article.
Okay. At this stage, I'm pretty sure this doesn't exist. In fact, I'm realizing something. Remember when we went to that article?
Yeah.
A review of the literature, a critical review of the literature. It's grabbed pieces of the puzzle. So we'll give that title. Ooh, I didn't mean to hit concept map. And I'm not overly surprised that it's not there. If I get rid of Jones and I just put in title, it doesn't surprise me that it's not there. So this might be the fast way if you want to go through the library, not use Google Scholar, because if it existed, would you not expect it to immediately bring it up?
It should have brought it up.
Okay.
If it was there.
So that might be a fast way. Let's look at one more and see if we have a similar issue. It wouldn't surprise me if these are all incorrect. So on citations, be aware that your students can generate them very quickly, and it'll be completely wrong. Also, this is not a great tool to pull citations from for this reason. Just to show you a comparison. Let's see what ChatGPT gives me. So it immediately tells me that its last knowledge update was September 2021, which is strange because I asked it since 2020. But let me take off the date, and see what we get. Ooh, it gave me links. Let's see, does that link exist? No. The good news, librarians, is you're not being replaced by this tool anytime soon. Let's see, does this exist if we go to the library page? The ChatGPT also had a hallucination. Let's see if Claude has it. Oh, let me go back and grab the correct prompt. And notice it immediately gives you a warning as it's creating them.
I think if you just click the DOI, yeah. I think it should be able to work.
So this one's legitimate.
Yeah.
Claude got it right. The other two got it wrong. I wouldn't say that that is a global response, though. Claude may get things wrong just as easily as the other two do. But this is something that as you're doing research or you're doing work, you may want to keep in mind and use different tools. Let's see if this one exists. But right off the bat, they don't all exist. But that was a ChatGPT. Wait, yeah, this is ChatGPT. Whereas Claude got it right. We lost Claude because when I went out, it didn't open a new window. It just used the same one. All right, so that addresses the hallucination question. Let me see what else brought in. It is a great idea for generation. Prompts, yes, absolutely, and that's a good topic. If you did not know, the university does provide a subscription to LinkedIn Learning free for all employees and students. There are a few out there. I've actually linked one that I kind of liked. There's more out there. And this talks to you about building apps, but it also talks to you about building your prompts before you can build apps. If you want to go a little bit further in how to use ChatGPT to build things for yourselves, this is a good area. And so this is fairly simple. And I really like this because it has exercise files. But you can see that you have related courses here in LinkedIn as well. I'm just going to click this top one. And this is Introduction to Prompt Engineering for Generative AI. This is something that I would recommend everyone on this call spend some time in because learning how to build prompts is going to be useful to everybody, as well as knowing what your students are likely to use or what students are going to come to you with questions for. I don't know if I see students, having looked this up and bringing it to you and go, I can't find this source. But maybe that's going to be something that will start happening. And as instructors, we definitely want to be cognizant of letting our students know about these hallucinations. But to get into LinkedIn Learning, you just need your PV email. If you click that link, it's going to take you directly to the PV email prompt, and then it'll allow you to watch these videos. So a great tool in how to build prompts. The other, I'm not going to go into depth in it, but we do have the ability to connect LinkedIn Learning to Canvas. You do it as an external tool. So you just add it as you would any other external tool if you wanted to assign your students the use of generating their own prompts. One of the strategies that we presented, and I worked with Professor Eshelman and Dr. Hooper on this at Katie in June, is go ahead and use the tools. Have the students learn how to set it up and see what the prompt does. Use it to help them refine their writing, to look at alternate ways of using their writing. Also, Dr. Francis, you are probably, the racial stereotypes is an interesting question. This is part of the black box. This is part of those emergent properties.
But I thought that the information was just loaded in there. So that's the part I didn't understand where, and I'm not a doctor, but how does it become racist if it's just dumping information?
Because the text that it was reading from had racist overtones in it.
Okay.
That's one of the biggest problems. Now,
were they creating their own chat GPT that they were going to call Claudine GPT, and that was going to be a new AI site? Is that what they were doing?
They were building what's called a small language model.
Okay, like you spoke of
even
earlier.
at Harvard would not have the resources to build a large language model.
Okay.
But yes, this is a legitimate threat. Smarter students will have the ability to create these models. They can put them up on the web. They can run on very limited hardware. They can run internally with students. This has been something that all of the big large language models are very concerned about. And they license their models out to other people. And once that model has been created, that small language model, they no longer need the large language model in order to be able to operate. So there is a potential for severe distortion. Racial stereotype happens to be the one that applied in your situation, but it could be used in a wide variety of things. One of the biggest problems in the early days, and I cannot remember the exact country that this was done in, but they found a very impoverished country where they could pay very, very low wages to people to curate what was going into the large language models. Well, what they found out is that the language literacy of the individuals that were doing this was so low, they didn't really know what they were doing. So they wound up putting an awful lot of inappropriate materials into the large language model. And as I had pointed out before, you can't pull it out. Once it's in there, it's not easy just to pull it out. And when you've spent millions and millions and millions of dollars to build one of these models, it's going to be a fight with the companies to pull them out. The small language models, they can go away very quickly. But these large language models, which is the bulk of things, not so much. I know that we are almost out of time. I'm going to point out some of the tools that I put in here about using AI tools in the workplace. Microsoft Copilot will officially launch on November 1st for enterprise customers. We are not an enterprise customer. We are an academic enterprise customer. However, I do not see it being long, like 6 months, before, given the way Microsoft has behaved in the past, we will start to see this tool embedded in our instance of Microsoft 365, which means we will have it and our students will have it. And it will help a great deal with productivity. I invite you to go look at the link to see what Microsoft Copilot can do. Send Steps was recommended by one of the biology professors. She uses it extensively in her large classes. It also to generate her presentations, as well as to do interactive polling with her students. In video AI, I have not played with in depth myself, but I have seen a lot of very good reviews from trusted people on it, and this actually allows you to create AI-generated videos. Quillbot is another great tool out there, similar to Grammarly, that allow, as I showed you earlier, it has multiple functions. It can paraphrase, it can grammar check, it can plagiarism check. I haven't used the co-writer very much, but Ms. Patterson, you may find this maybe a useful tool for the Writing Center, because it does help students do things. The summarizer is good at crunching things down. The last tool that I am going to show you that I do all of the time is I don't have time to watch all of these videos on YouTube, even though there's a lot of good information out there. So what I do is I go to the video, I grab the transcript from the video, and I'm trying to find where it gave the transcript. Here it is. Show transcript. There is no transcript on this particular video. Let me grab another one. Not every video will have a transcript. This one is not because it's going to be live. All of these are going to be live because this is the House vote for speaker. All right,
Before this video begins, I would
show transcript. All right, then what I do is I toggle off the timestamps. I copy. This is a 35-minute video, so I'm not going to copy all of it. And by the way, you won't be able to do this with a 35-minute video. I drop it over into Bard, but I put the word summarize this transcript into bullets. And it may bark at me because it's too long. By the way, despite all my typo errors, it understood what I had. Okay, you can see that Bard didn't do a very good job with this. So let's see if ChatGPT can do it. What you can see is that it created a summary of what was in that video. What I've found frequently is that it does a pretty good job, especially for shorter videos. I would not necessarily put a 35-minute video in it. And I can skim that real quick to find out if this has enough information to give me justification to go back and watch that video. So we are out of time, almost out of time. Are there any final questions?
Any questions, any comments for Mr. Starne?
I thought it was an excellent presentation. However, due to so much to discover, probably want to invite him back for part 2.
I agree with that.
So actually next week, there's going to be I think a part 2 on AI.
I'm not presenting that. That's somebody else.
Yeah, so Dr. Bramfield will be sending out the necessary information. So colleagues, let us thank Mr. Jones.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Thank you so much, John. I'm sorry that I could not be there, but I was listening. I'm on my phone. I didn't know that I could actually, you could hear me on the phone. But anyway, so yes, next week we're going to do part 2 looking at AI images and some of the same things that John was showing about the hallucination. It does also with images, but yeah. And then there is a LibGuide that I just created, and it's entitled Artificial Intelligence, so that you can look up, and it has some information that was just mentioned today. I thought this was a great presentation, John. I mean, I learned so much. It was really, really good. So I just want to thank you again and thank everybody. And thank you, Dr. Alaka, for being the host. I'm so grateful. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stan. This has been amazing. It's been wonderful. I wish the thing was like 3 hours long so that I can just listen and soak in. Thank you so much.
Well, the upside is I will be adding resources to this mural, and you all have access to it if you want to look at it later on. And we will be continuing this conversation. This is definitely not the end of the discussion.
Okay, thank you so much, and
Thank you.
have a lovely day.
Thank you.
Goodbye.